I always do that. Welcome to the Not Move podcast, everybody. Today is January 20th at 4:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all so much for joining today. Hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you to our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to be talking about some NBA today. First thing that I like to do is go over injury updates. I can't stress enough how important those injury updates are. And even at this time of day, we don't have all of the information that we need. I find that the most reliable source for me when it comes to injury updates is rotowire.com, ROTO wire.com. And I also like to look at the FanDuel Daily Fantasy app. I think they do a good job at explaining what's going on with players and who could benefit from their absence. So let's start with the Phoenix and Philadelphia 76ers game. Joel Embiid, center for the Philadelphia 76ers, will not play tonight due to rest. PG-13 Paul George, small forward / power forward for the Philadelphia 76ers, is questionable to play tonight with a knee issue. Typically, when players are questionable, there's a 50-50 chance that they play. So I know Philadelphia is on a back-to-back, meaning they played yesterday. Same with Phoenix, Mark Williams, the center for Phoenix, is questionable to play in this game tonight due to rest. He is the center for Phoenix. And that looks like about it for the notable injuries in that game. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm sorry to hear that blessed up piece. CJ McCollum and Tobias Harris cost you a legendary day. Hopefully we can bounce back today, my man. I'm glad to have you in the building today. All right, let's move on to the next game here. San Antonio Spurs and Houston Rockets. I'm just doing injury updates real quick, everybody. Eason, the small forward / power forward for the Houston Rockets, listed as questionable to play tonight due to an ankle issue. Vassell, shooting guard / small forward for the San Antonio Spurs, is out tonight due to a thigh issue. Steven Adams, backup center for Houston, will not play tonight due to an ankle issue. And then Fred VanVleet, I believe he's out for the season, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Looks like he may be out for the entire season, which is a big blow to that Houston Rockets team. But they still have some offensive firepower with them. Let's move on to the next game. Los Angeles Clippers at Chicago Bulls. Kawhi Leonard out tonight due to a knee issue. He's the small forward / power forward for the Los Angeles Clippers. Josh Giddey, point guard / shooting guard for the Chicago Bulls, is questionable to play tonight due to a hamstring issue. Cam Christie, shooting guard for the Clippers, questionable due to abdominal soreness. Patrick Williams, small forward / power forward for the Chicago Bulls, questionable with a sprained right ankle. That looks like about it for the notable injuries in that one. Next game is going to be Minnesota and Utah. Markkanen, small forward / power forward for the Utah Jazz, out tonight due to an illness. Bryce Sensabaugh, Shooting guard slash, excuse me, small forward for the Utah Jazz out due to an illness tonight. And that really looks like it for the notable injuries. There are some, other minor injuries that could make a big impact, but I'll let you guys look over that if you wish to do so. Tyler Harrow, shooting guard, point guard slash shooting guard for the Miami Heat, out tonight due to a ribs issue. Khalil Ware, power forward slash center for the Miami Heat, questionable to play tonight due to a hamstring issue. Keegan Murray, small forward slash power forward for the Sacramento Kings, out with an ankle issue. Right. And then Lakers against my Denver Nuggets. Jokic is out still with a knee issue. Jamal Murray is probable to play. He due to an illness and something with his left knee, inflammation in his left knee. Typically, when players are probable, there's a good chance. I already know a lot of you already know this, but in case you do not know, that's okay. Typically, when players are listed as probable, they usually play. There's a good chance that he's going to play tonight. It's rare where I see a player is probable and they end up not playing. Austin Reeves, shooting guard slash small forward for the Los Angeles Lakers, is out due to a calf issue. Aaron Gordon, power forward for the Denver Nuggets, probable to play tonight due to a hamstring issue. Tim Hardaway Jr., shooting guard slash small forward for the Denver Nuggets, is listed as probable to play tonight due to a right knee contusion. Christian Brown, shooting guard slash small forward for the Denver Nuggets, out tonight due to an ankle issue. Cam Johnson remains out for the Nuggets. He's that small forward slash power forward with a right knee issue. And then Valanciunas out with a calf issue. So the Nuggets are, they're pretty depleted right now. And then the last game here, Toronto and Golden State Warriors. Unfortunately, looks like Jimmy Butler tore his ACL last night, and he'll be out for the rest of the season. That is terrible news for the Golden State Warriors, and wishing Jimmy Butler a quick and efficient recovery there. RJ Barrett, shooting guard slash small forward for the Toronto Raptors, out with an ankle issue tonight. Colin Murray Boyles out tonight with a thumb issue. He is the power forward slash center for the Toronto Raptors. Draymond Green, questionable to play tonight due to an ankle issue. Pirtle remains out here for the Toronto Raptors due to a back issue. Will Richard, questionable to play in this one. He's the shooting guard for the Golden State Warriors due to a glute issue. Al Horford, center for the Golden State Warriors, out tonight with a toe issue. And then Guy Santos, looks like he's trying to get back on the court. Seems like Steve Kerr, head coach of the Golden State Warriors, is hopeful that he will be able to play tonight. So there you have it for the injury updates. Harris had a great game, but I took his rebounds and assists. Yeah, Jimmy Butler. Yeah, he looks like he's done for the season there, Arnell. Thank you for the comment there. But yeah, he looks like he tore his ACL last night. So this is bad news for Jimmy there and the Golden State Warriors. All right, so Tuesday, DK has that King of the Court promo. I think something that's even more important than picking the right player in that promo is doing something that nobody else is really thinking about. Last week, LeBron James was the king of the court, and I was surprised with how many little people took him. There were 460 people that picked LeBron James that night. And the main reason being is because he was questionable to play. In fact, I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to end up playing. And about, 15 minutes before tip off or so, I saw that he was going to play. So I thought, okay, and I was waiting for that. I wanted to get in on it on a player that not a whole lot of people were going to pick. I just didn't think that few would pick him. Um, so that's just, kind of my strategy when it comes to that King of the Court promo they got there on DK. There were some guys that I listed off on my notes here that when I looked this morning, I listed the players with the highest projected PRA, points, rebounds, and assists, right? PRA. The leader of the NBA in PRA is the king of the court. So Doncic, when I looked this morning for the Lakers, he was the highest projected guy for the PRA. James Harden, Jamal Murray, Anthony Edwards, and just another list of guys here. So I think, yeah, what it comes down to is just differentiating yourself, because if I went with Doncic tonight, I got a feeling that a lot of people are going to pick Doncic. So, the bonus on that is not going to be nearly what it was last week. I don't even know how much that bonus would be. Maybe like 20, 30, 40. So I'm not really trying to pick players like that. If I win that promo, I want to get a good chunk. So we'll see if we find a different player throughout the show. And I necessarily wouldn't pick the player that I'm going to mention here today, but if you want to, feel free to. But I think I'm going to go with Shingun, the Houston Rockets center. And there's a couple reasons why. One, I don't think a whole lot of people will pick him. Especially considering that the Spurs rank third in team defensive efficiency. I mean, Wembanyama, he is a problem on the defensive side of the ball, right? So I don't think a lot of people are going to pick Shingun until maybe they listen to this, and that's fine. I'm not selfish. If you guys want to get in on that too, more power to you. It's not a lock by any means. Shingun probably has a tough matchup in that one. But the reason why I was going to another reason why I wanted to probably pick him, and I will pick him, is because I looked to see on this list of players that I have who had the most PRA throughout history against their team, the team that they're playing against. And it was Shingun. He had 64 PRA against the Spurs in 2024, and Wembanyama did play in that game, a healthy amount of minutes. So, that's just kind of my thought process on that whole promotion, and then just who I'm picking tonight. But who else I'm thinking? I think I've seen this guy win it last year. Keontae George, especially with Laurie out, could be another sleeper that could pay off dividends if he did do it. Kind of just browsing the sheet here to see if there are any other players that I think could do it that are somewhat of a sleeper. Um, Maybe somebody for the Heat with their injuries that they got going on, or maybe Chef Curry. I just think a lot of people will probably be on Steph Curry there. Maybe one of these Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon against the Lakers tonight. So, but anyways, that's enough of that. Let's get into it. Harris had a great game, but I took his rebounds and assists. All right, first game that I want to talk about, Phoenix at Philadelphia. Phoenix is on a 2-game win streak. Philadelphia, 1-game win streak. Both of these teams played yesterday. Phoenix has won 3 games in a row against Philadelphia. Paul George has a 16-10 career record against Devin Booker. As I mentioned earlier, though, Paul George is questionable to play in that game. Paul George has an 8-2 career record against Dillon Brooks. Embiid is 4-3 against Dillon Brooks, and Devin Booker has a 7-5 career record against Embiid. But I think we mentioned that Embiid is out. Yeah, he's out tonight. So, anyways, these are the 2 best teams against the spread in the NBA. Phoenix is 30-13 against the spread, which ranks first in the NBA. Philadelphia is second best, right behind them, 24-17 against the spread. The difference here is Phoenix is 6-1 against the spread as a road favorite compared to Philadelphia, who's 4-3 against the spread as a home underdog. Last that I checked, Phoenix was a road favorite. They still are at the book that I'm looking at. So not only I think Phoenix all around wins that against the spread trend. So I'll write my notes here. Phoenix advantage. If I can turn that caps lock off, there we go. All right. Points per game versus points allowed per game is something that I like to look at for both teams. Overall, I'd give Phoenix a slight advantage in that points per game versus points allowed per game category. Philadelphia does score more points per game, but Phoenix's defense allows less. Overall, I would give Philadelphia a slight advantage. Excuse me. Those are 2 close abbreviations, PHI, PHX. But yeah, Philadelphia, slight advantage there. I'd also give Philadelphia a slight advantage when it comes to points in the paint. I don't see a clear advantage when it comes to fast break points. 3-pointers. I didn't write down which offense was good at shooting threes, but both of these defenses are good at preventing 3-pointers. Philadelphia ranks 21st in assists allowed per game, so they are below average at allowing assists per game to opposing teams. Same with the rebounds. They rank 23rd in rebounds allowed per game to opposing teams. So if you're thinking about a player for Phoenix to get some assists tonight or rebounds, you have that working for you. Turnover battle here. I would give Philadelphia a slight advantage there. And then I think that's about it. So let's talk about some player props in this game. Dillon Brooks 4 rebounds, says Blessed Up P. He took it last night and it hit, ran it back today, caught it at plus 100 this morning and added a boost to it. Right on, man. Yep. So another source that I like to look at is I'll just type in my search engine here, NBA defense versus position. And Dillon Brooks is projected to be that small forward tonight for the Phoenix Suns. So I want to know, I mentioned that Philadelphia is below average at allowing rebounds per game to opposing teams. I want to know how they are against that specific position. They do allow the fewest amount of rebounds per game to opposing small forwards. which is a concern with Dylan Brooks's rebounds tonight. But if that number is low enough, then, that's fine. But yeah, let's go take a look at Dylan Brooks. You said you got it at 4+. Let's go see what it is now. Dylan Brooks. Yeah, over under 3.5 rebounds for Dylan Brooks. So let me walk you through what I like to do here. Let's go look at Dylan Brooks versus Sixers statistics. I want to check out his last 10 games against the Sixers and just see how many times he's had 4+ rebounds in games against the Sixers. 1, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7, 6 out of 8, 7 out of 9, 8 out of his last 10 games. Bless that P. 8 out of his last 10 games against Philly, he's gone over that line. All right. And then we'll go look at Dylan Brooks. I want to see his statistics this season. It'll take me to ESPN.com. I'm going to filter this by advanced statistics to see if there's been a heavy increase or decrease in his rebounds per 40 minutes. Per 40 minutes that Dylan Brooks plays, are his rebounds going up or down? And they're pretty steady. 4.4. That's been his number for the last 3 out of 4 years. So seems like kind of a magic number there for him. So that's looking good there. Since it's steady, I won't deduct a point from Dylan Brooks there. And then let's just go see his last 10 games, Dylan Brooks. He's had 4+ rebounds in his last 3 out of 4 games, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 5 out of 7, 6 out of 8, 7 out of 9, 7 out of 10 games, man, So he's gone over, and that's not against Philly. Like I said, he's 8 out of 10 against Philly, 7 out of 10. He's gone over just in his last 10 games in general. So I think that's looking solid, and maybe his team relies on him to get a few more rebounds tonight if Mark Williams is ultimately ruled out. So, there's other things that we could look at, rebound to usage ratios and all types of stuff, but that's more, advanced, and I'm not going to necessarily get into all that right this moment. But I also want to see if there's somebody for Philadelphia, right? I want to see if there's somebody for Philadelphia who has not played for Philadelphia their entire career. And although he's questionable, let's say he plays Paul George. I want to see what Dylan Brooks has also done against Paul George. So before we move on, let me just look that up real quick. Versus Paul George, head-to-head statistics. I think I mentioned at the start of the segment, Paul George does have an 8-2 career record against Dylan Brooks. And I want to know how many times Dylan Brooks has had 4+ rebounds against Paul George throughout his career. 1 out of 2 games, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, 2 out of 8, 3 out of 9, 4 out of 10. Would have liked that number to be 5 out of 10, but hey, it's not always just perfect when it comes to the research. I think just based on what I've seen so far, I like it more than I don't. Blessed up P. And I think if Mark Williams is ultimately out, that could maybe, even give you a better chance of hitting that. But yeah, it looks good, man. Any other player props that you guys like here? Let's see. Better Royce O'Neal points. I also took it last night. It was a sweat, but he went over 9.5. What's his matchup looking like today? And should I run it back also? Yeah, let's go take a look at that. Royce O'Neal has a 14.6 usage rate. And are there any big time injuries tonight that could possibly get him a little bit more usage? And some of you may wonder what is usage rates, and that is fine. Let me just give you guys the definition of usage rate. It estimates the percentage of a team's plays a player uses while on the floor, defined by possessions ending with their shot attempt, free throws, or turnover, indicating their offensive involvement and ball dominance, with around 20% considered average. So primary scorers with high usage typically see 30% or higher usage rate. So, basically it dictates how important a player is to their offensive production. So let's just gonna oh, you had a question about Royce O'Neal. Okay, yeah, let's take a look at Royce O'Neal. Just right off the bat here, I'm just a little concerned about Royce O'Neal because Philadelphia ranks sixth best in 3-point field goals allowed per game to opposing teams. And that is one of Royce O'Neal's biggest strengths, is that 3-point shot. He ranks 22nd in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. So, yeah, right off the bat, that is a concern, but that's not the end-all, be-all. Let's go check out to that specific position. He's projected to start in that power forward spot tonight for Phoenix. Let's go check here on fantasypros.com how many points per game that Philadelphia allows to power forwards. They are above average. They rank about 10th best in the NBA or so. Okay. But you said over under 9.5. Royce O'Neal, 9.5 points. And then we're going to look at, Royce O'Neal versus Sixers statistics. I want his last 10 games against the Sixers here. How many times has he had 10-plus points against the Sixers? Only 2 out of his last 10 games against the Sixers has he had 10-plus points. So I am a little concerned about that. I'm worried that the Sixers defend the 3 ball well. They defend against power forward scoring well. What about the 3-pointer to that specific position as well, since that's one of his strengths, if not his biggest strength? Philadelphia allows the fourth fewest 3-point field goals to opposing power forwards, which is a concern. And then we want to look at maybe Royce O'Neal. Is his points per 40 minutes trending up this season? Is it going down? What's he done for us lately too? It's the second highest. His points per 40 minutes is the second highest that it's been in his career, which is good. 14.2 points per 40 minutes that he plays. And he's averaging 29.5 minutes per game. So about 30 minutes. Then we wanted to look at maybe Royce O'Neal versus Paul George. Head-to-head statistics. Takes me to just a second. Let me find Royce O'Neal here on this list. Takes me to. It doesn't look like I'm able to find that search because Royce O'Neal is I guess they consider him more as of a role player, and they just don't have him listed on this source, landofbasketball.com. If you can find that information, I think it'll be useful. What's Royce O'Neal done for us lately? How many times in the past few games has he had 10 plus points? 3 out of the last 3 games, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8, 7 out of 9, 7 out of his last 10 games he's gone over, which is good. I think it's going to be a sweat again here today. Again here today. Blessed up, P. With 3 threes and a free throw. Philadelphia does rank 17th in opponent free throws per game. So they're right about average when it comes to sending their opponents to the line. They don't send their opponents to the line a ton, or it's not like they never send their opponents to the line. Just league average, a little bit below league average. Once again, they rank 17th in that category. And then, something else to look at is, free throw attempts leaders in the NBA. How many free throws is he getting per game? And I'll try to find that information real quick. I don't think he's getting a lot, if he is getting any. Here he is, 0.4 free throw attempts per game. So less than 1 free throw attempt per game by Royce O'Neal. I'm concerned about it. Like I said, man, I like the fact that I like what he's done for us lately, right? He's gone over that line. I think I said 7 out of his last 10 games. But, the fact that he's only gone over that line in his last 2 out of 10 games against the Sixers. Sixers are good at preventing his specific position at scoring. The Sixers are good at defending against the 3 ball as a team and to that specific position, which is one of his biggest strengths, if not his biggest strength. I think it's going to be a sweat, man. Hey, happy Tuesday there, Daniel. Daniel Barris Sports Highlight 5851. Thank you for joining. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for the comments. I believe that there's a trend, says Blessed Up P. A trend with Edgecombe with his rebounds going over when Embiid is out, but his line may be bumped by now. Let's go take a look at that. Edgecombe rebounds. He is the shooting guard for the Philadelphia 76ers, the projected shooting guard. And then his rebounds are listed at 5.5, but it's juicy. It's at plus 121 at the book that I'm looking at. Okay. And yes, that is a great source to have. That is a source that I need to find. And I know people do have it. It's what do these players do when this player is out or these players are out? What is their usage rates? But yeah, let's go take a look. Edgecombe. Let's go see how many rebounds he has in his last 10 games. How many times has he had 6+? Is that the number that we want to look at here, 6+? It is juicy, plus 121. But yeah, let's go take a look. He hasn't gone over that in 5 straight games. 1 out of 6, 2 out of 7, 3 out of 8, 3 out of 9, 3 out of his last 10 games. He's gone over that. But if we're looking at 5+, he's had 5+ rebounds in 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, 2 out of 6, 3 out of 7, 4 out of 8, 4 out of 9, 5 out of 10. So higher success rate with the 5+ in his last 10 games. And then let's go take a look to see Edgecombe versus Sun statistics. Let's go see if he has played Edgecombe versus Sun statistics. Maybe he's never played against him. Edgecombe. Looking at statmuse.com. I don't think he's ever played them. Which makes things difficult. I don't get that historical information with these younger players, so that makes it harder for me. I'm not the greatest at judging what rookies or second-year guys are going to do necessarily. I just have very limited information to work with. But it doesn't look like he has played against Phoenix yet. Okay. But we need to go look at how many what games Embiid was out, right? And this is going to be somewhat tedious here, but that's okay. We need to see what games Embiid has missed this season. Let's go look at that game, January 11th versus Toronto. And then December 28th against OKC. December 20th against Dallas. December 19th against New York. December 5th against Milwaukee. December 2nd against Washington. November 28th against Brooklyn. And November 25th against Orlando. Edgecombe. Okay, the first game we're looking for is January 11th. He had 4 rebounds that game that Embiid was out. Next game, December 28th. He had 2 rebounds. December 20th, he had 6. December 19th, he had 3. December 5th, he had 4. December 2nd, he had 6. November 28th, he didn't play. He didn't play in those other 2 games. So there have been 6 games this season that Edgecombe has played where Embiid did not. And Edgecombe has had 5+ rebounds in 2 out of 6 of those games. In fact, in both of those games, he had 6 rebounds. So I would feel more comfortable, taking it down to 4, because at least with 4, you're looking at least 4 out of 6, 66.66% of the games that Embiid was out, he had 4+ rebounds. But 5 and 6, only two out of those 6 games. Hey, thanks, Grandma. You're thinking Edgecombe, king of the court there, Grandma? He's a rookie. Yeah. So, you can obviously do whatever you want with that information, but he's projected to be what, that shooting guard for Philadelphia, right? So let's go look to see also how many rebounds per game Phoenix is allowing to opposing teams. Phoenix ranks 10th best as a team in limiting rebounds. So they're above average at limiting teams from getting rebounds against them. And then to Edgecombe's specific position, which he's projected to be the shooting guard tonight, Phoenix ranks fifth best in preventing rebounds to his position. Also, with Embiid being out tonight, will Edgecombe lay off those boards a little bit and have scoring in the back of his mind first and foremost? I should maybe in the front of his mind, I should say. That's another factor here. Is like how many points is Edgecombe getting when Embiid is out? January 11th. I'm curious. January 11th, 17, which is that was 5 games ago. That was the most points that he scored, in the last 5 games is when Embiid was out. Let's go look at December 28th, only 10. December 20th, 26. December 19th, 23. December 5th, 12. So, what about his threes? Let's go take a look at that. So his 3-point line, looking at DK here, Edgecombe over under 1.5, and it's heavily juiced there. Over under 1.5 threes. It's at minus 194. Phoenix as a team is good at defending against the 3 ball. They rank 4th best in the NBA at defending against the 3-pointer. To that specific position, Phoenix is above average at limiting shooting guards from making threes. And then, we can look at his last 10 games here. How many times has he had 2+ 3-pointers? 3 out of his last 5, 3 out of 6, 3 out of 7, 4 out of 8, 5 out of 9, 6 out of his last 10 games. He's had the 2+ 3-point field goals. I want to know also on these days without Embiid, what he did. He had 2 threes in the game. The most recent game, Embiid was out and he played. December 28th. Same with that. 2 threes. December 20th, he had 3. December 19th, he had 3. December 5th and the 4th, I think we said he did not play, right? Oh no, he did. There were just a couple other games. December 5th, 2. He knocked down 2. So blessed up, P. Every game that Embiid has been out this season, in which Edgecombe played, which is 6 games, Edgecombe has made at least 2 3-point field goals. In fact, in 4 out of 6 of those games, it was exactly 2. And then in the other 2, it was exactly 3. And then we can go look, too, to see not just, we're just looking to see who he made or how many he made when Embiid was out. Let's go look at how many or what teams, how did those teams defend against the 3? 3-point field goals allowed per game is what we'll go take a look at here. allowed per game. So he did it against Toronto, who ranks 12th best in limiting threes as a team. Oklahoma City, who ranks 27th, so they're bad at defending against the three. Dallas, they rank second best. The Mavericks do at defending against that three ball. And to that position, they're better than Phoenix at defending against it. He hit 3 against Dallas. Against the New York Knicks, he did it, and the Knicks rank 28th, so they're bad at three-point defense. Milwaukee, he did. They ranked 21st, and then against Washington, he ranked 23rd. So, if they were all, bad three-point defenses, obviously that would be a more bigger cause for concern. But I like the fact that he did it against Dallas, and I like the fact that he's had at least 2 3-point field goals, in every game against when Embiid was out. So you may have some other reasons why you like that prop, but hopefully that was helpful for you, man. Yeah, minus 194. And if we took it up to over 2.5, he has only gone over that in 2 out of 6 games that Embiid has missed this season in which he played. So, yeah, if you're looking for a something to stack another play with, there you go, minus 194. But anyways, what about predictions on this game? Who I think is going to win or lose? Got Phoenix at Philadelphia. Phoenix has won 3 games in a row against them. Philadelphia, looks like Philadelphia has some slight advantages here in this game. What's the line here? Phoenix minus 1.5. Phoenix is better against the spread. They're 6-1 against the spread as a road favorite. I think this is, a tough game for me to call. I'm going to see if I like something better throughout the show here. But as of right now, I'll lean towards Phoenix minus that 1.5. What do you guys like in chat? Yeah, let's talk about the Spurs game there, Blessed Up P. Let's talk about this Spurs game. The Spurs are on a back-to-back. The Spurs are on a 3-game win streak. Houston is on a 2-game win streak. Kevin Durant for the Houston Rockets has a 9-3 career record against De'Aaron Fox, who plays for the Spurs. Kevin Durant has a 21-16 career record against Harrison Barnes. Wembanyama has a 3-2 career record against Kevin Durant, and then Şengün has a 4-3 career record against Wemby. Şengün, career high points. Was it against the Spurs? Yeah. So, I looked at Şengün's statistics against the Spurs earlier. It doesn't seem like he does a whole lot against them, but he did have a game where he scored his career high in points, which is 45. And Steven Adams is out tonight, backup center for Houston. So if you can find a trend, if you like Şengün for some reason, and he seems to perform well whenever Steven Adams is out, that might be something to look into, But I think that's going to be my king of the court guy just because I like that upside there, I like the upside. Like I said, I listed all the players that with the highest PRAs this morning, and he was the guy who had the highest PRA in any game against his opponent that he's playing today. It was 65, I believe it was. I can double check that. Um, yeah, 64 against San Antonio in 2024, and Wembanyama played in that game. Harden had 63 against the Bulls in 2017. The most PRA LeBron's had against the Nuggets is 58. The most PRA Doncic has had against the Nuggets is 62. Harden, I mentioned 63. Jamal Murray, 47 against the Lakers was his high PRA. Anthony Edwards, 54 against Utah in 2025 twice. Steph Curry, 53 PRA against Toronto. Devin Booker, 55 against Phoenix in 2017. But yeah, let's go back to that Spurs game and talk about that a little bit. So the Spurs are better against the spread than Houston is. What's that line? The Rockets are favored by 4.5. Yet the Spurs are better against the spread this season. The Spurs are also better against the spread as a road underdog. They rank 6th best in the NBA. They're better against the spread as a road underdog than Houston is as a home favorite. Houston is 7-9 against the spread as a home favorite. The Spurs are 7-4 against the spread as a road underdog. Also, I mentioned that the Spurs are on a back-to-back. Well, the Spurs are 5-1 against the spread with rest disadvantage. But Houston is 6-2 against the spread with rest advantage. So I kind of, consider that a wash. Overall, I give the Spurs a against the spread advantage just with those numbers that I was talking about. Obviously, there are some other search queries you could do. Spurs as the home team, or maybe there's a filter that says with how many days rest, and so on and so forth. I think it was teamrankings.com is where I got that information. Was there a specific player prop? Champagny points, Cornet points, rebounds. Okay. So let's go take a look here. Champagny, 15.6% usage rate this season. Let me clear up some of these tabs. I still have Royce O'Neal tabs up. Get a little organized here. All right. Yeah, let's go take a look. Champagny, Spurs, projected to be the starting small forward tonight against Houston. Let me just write down all your props real quick that you wanted. Champagny points, Cornet points plus rebounds, then Castle assists. All right, let's go take a look. Player points. Champagny, Julian Champagny, over under 10.5 points. What I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to come back to this game, but what I'm going to do real quick is look to see who else on the slate today has an over under of 10.5 points and see what their usage rate is. Dosunmu, 10.5 for Chicago. And his usage rate, according to statmuse.com, is 20.3%. So they have the same line listed for Champagny and Dosunmu, yet, Dosunmu has about a 5% usage increase than Champagny. So that either tells me that Champagny is too high on the points or Dosunmu's too low. Probably. Maybe they're both too high. What other players have over under 10.5? Walter Clayton in that Jazz game. Oh, I didn't get a chance to write down the Jazz player usage rate, but I'll look it up real quick. Walter Clayton, 17.4. Larson for Miami has an over under of 10.5 points, and he has a 16.2% usage. So Champagny has the lowest usage rate out of every player on DK who has an over under of 10.5 points, which is concerning. Are there going to be is there anybody out, for the Spurs? Right now, I'm just seeing Vassell is out, which could be enough for him to get over, If you can find information on games that Vassell, and I'll look, I'll look it up real quick. Just like we did with, who was it in that Sixers game? Edgecombe. We'll look it up here for Vassell. He's missed, since December 31st. He's missed since December 31st. So how many games since December 31st has Champagny gone, had 10 plus points? 1 out of 2, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, 5 or 11 plus, right? 1 out of 2, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8, 8 out of 9, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 11. Blessed up P. 9 out of 11 games that Vassell is out, Champagny has scored 11 plus points. I think 11's a fair sample size, pretty good sample size there. And then a concern that I have is that Champagny is a good 3-point shooter. He ranks 40th in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. And the Rockets are good at defending against the three as a team. They rank 9th best in the NBA at 3-point defense. 3-point field goals allowed per game. They rank 9th best. And then he's projected to be that small forward tonight. So let's go just take a look at Houston's 3-point defense against small forwards. They rank 7th best. And then what about points? They are above average at limiting small forward points per game. And then the last thing we can do is go look to see versus Rockets. Let's go see if he's played any games against the Rockets. And how many points he's scored in those games. Looks like he's played 5 career games against the Rockets, and he has it's Julian. I almost misspoke because we're talking about Julian. Everything else I've looked at was for Julian. I just typed in just in there. So let me Look at Julian's last 10 games against the Rockets. He's had 11 plus points in his last 4 out of 5 games against the Rockets. 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 4 out of 7, 4 out of 8, 4 out of 9, or excuse me, 4 out of 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 4 out of 10, right? But there were 4 games where he played 12 minutes or less. I'm seeing a game here in 2025 where he had 21 minutes and dropped 11. As much as I don't like the defense that he's going up against, Houston, very solid defensive team. Good at defending against that 3 ball, good at defending against his position. And I don't like the fact that there are other players on today's slate that have a higher usage rate than he does. But I do like the fact that he has had 11 plus points in 9 out of 11 games that Vassell has been out this season. And maybe Vassell was out earlier this season, but I've just looked since December 31st, right? Because that's where he's missed a bulk of the games. Champagne's had 11 plus points in 9 out of 11 of those games. And then I do like the history against the Rockets. I mentioned 4 out of 10. Well, I'm not even going to count the 4 of those games against him since he only played 12 minutes tops in some of those games, And as of late, he's been getting 28 minutes, 31, 23, 34, 36. And since December 31st, so he played 28 minutes his last game, right? The last time he played 20 minutes, it went up to 31. I should say in the 20-minute range, so somewhere between 20 and 29 minutes. Last time, it was January 15th, so just a few days ago, he played 23 minutes. The next day, 31. And then January 2nd, he played 25 minutes. That next day, he got to 33 minutes. Also, the Spurs are on a back-to-back, right? And I see on January 2nd, they played on January 2nd and January 23rd. Well, on the first head of that back-to-back, that first game is where he played 25. His minutes were in the 20s, like yesterday. And that next day went up to 33. So if that trend continues, it's just, one time that I see it. If that trend continues, he should get a good amount of minutes tonight. And then let's go look at Kornet points plus rebounds. Hopefully that helps you out, man. Like I said, maybe you have a good reason why you like it tonight. I see some pros and some cons, right? And I'll just kind of let you guys sort that out. If I see something that I like, I'm pretty picky, as many of you know. If I see something that I like, I'll let you know. But let's continue on here. Okay, points plus rebounds for Kornet. 11.5. Okay. I mentioned Steven Adams is out, right? Steven Adams is out of this game. Who steps in when Steven Adams is out? Looks like Capella gets a little bit of run. Maybe Şengün plays a little bit more. Maybe Jabari Smith plays a little bit more. Not quite sure how they're going to adapt to Steven Adams' absence tonight. Maybe you have a better idea than I do. But from my understanding, Steven Adams is a pretty decent defender. I'll just type it in my search engine here. I mean, yeah, I'm seeing with this search query that he is considered a very good, impactful defender. So the fact that he is out tonight makes me feel better about Cornette getting over the points plus rebounds. 11.5 is his line. But obviously, we need to look at this a little bit more here. How many times in his last 10 games has he had 12 plus rebounds, right? Points plus rebounds. 1, 2, 3 out of 3, 4 out of 4, 5 out of 5, 6 out of 6, 7 out of 7, 7 out of 8, 8 out of 9, 9 out of his last 10 games. And really, it goes further than that. 10 out of 11, 11 out of 12, 12 out of 13 games. 12 out of his last 13 games. I'm going to keep it at that 9 out of 10, though. 9 out of his last 10 games, he's gone over that line, which is good. Usage rate for Cornette, 10.9%, but usage rate doesn't include rebounds unless you do the rebounds to usage ratio. Okay, so now we're just going to go look at Cornette versus Houston. Last 10 games against the Rockets. It's Luke, right? Luke Cornette. And let's see, against the Rockets, what he's done. Man, some of these games he had some big minutes, and I don't think he's been getting the minutes. He's been 21, 19, 20. So it looks like he's been, as of late, he's getting around 20 minutes. So in the games where he's had 20 plus minutes, blessed up P, which is his last 3 games against Houston, he's had 25 points plus rebounds, but he played 33 minutes in that game. Played 24 minutes, had 19 points plus rebounds. And then the game before that, played 23 minutes, 8 plus 9, so 17. Then there's some other games where he didn't go over that line, where he played 14 minutes, 9 minutes, 3 minutes, 18, 19, 6. So it looks like, anytime in his last 10 games against the Rockets where he's had 20 plus minutes, he's hit that line. And okay. And then we can go over here to the fantasypros.com. We can go over to fantasypros.com. Go filter this by rebounds. How many rebounds does Houston allow to opposing centers? They allow the fewest rebounds to opposing centers. And as a team, Houston ranks second best in preventing rebounds. And then points to centers that Houston allows. They're about average in that category. But there's something else that I want to look up too, and that's bench points allowed, right? Since he should be coming off the bench today. How are the Houston Rockets? How is their bench defense? I'm looking at StatMuse. It's not listing them on here, but if you can find that information, I think that would be valuable too. And even if even if you could find rebounds, allowed to bench players, so yeah, so I see some good things I like about it, some bad things. I do like that he's gone over that line in his last 9 out of 10 games. And then Castle assist you like. Um, Houston ranks second in assists allowed per game as a defense. And then to that shooting guard position, Houston ranks first in limiting assists to the shooting guard position, which is what Castle's projected to play today. They rank second best at limiting that, or excuse me, first. They rank first in limiting shooting guard assists. But if that line's low enough, man, and you might have your reasons that you like it, but I do want to give you that piece of information there. I'm not going to look into every single player prop just for time's sake. I'll probably have another 30 minutes or so that I could be on the air. I like him for points. Desunmu, Spurs on a lock back to back. I like all these guys to get more minutes because it's back to back and they ball on the railer. They can hit their lines regardless. Yeah. So that's another thing. Like, does Cornette typically get more minutes on back to backs? I'm seeing in that January 2nd, 3rd, he went from 27 to 31 on the back to back. He did drop from a 26 to 21 from the 6th to the 7th. Trying to maybe see a game where he had like 21 minutes, like on a back to back. And I'm not really seeing a situation like the one that he's in tonight, that he's been in throughout the season. But yeah, I would think his minutes probably go up a little bit from 21, being on a back to back. And it looks like, they've been monitoring Big Vic a little bit. So, overall, guys, these are two really good defensive teams. I think the biggest flaw I see with any of these statistics is the Spurs 3-point defense. So if you guys like, I'm not saying that this is the play that I like, because I don't have the time to dive into each player prop the way I want to. But if you like, Reed Shepard or Jabari Smith 3-point field goals, I think that could be advantageous here in this one. Jabari Smith is the power forward, and the Spurs are below average at 3-point field goals allowed to power forwards. The Spurs, Fox ended up having 4 steals or something. Last that I looked, blessed up P. I know we were talking about those Fox steals, and yeah, he had at least 4 the other day, from my understanding. I think he could possibly be in another good situation like that again tonight. I'm not going to look into that as much here, but the only reason why I'm saying that is because Houston turns the ball over a lot. And then so I would just maybe look up De'Aaron Fox versus Amin Thompson head-to-head statistics. They've only played 4 career games against each other. But, Fox has had a game where he had 4 steals, 3 steals, 1, and then 0. So, I mean, I don't know if Amin Thompson turns the ball over a lot, but that's something that, something else that we could look up. Turnover player turnovers leaders in the NBA is what I can look up real quick just to see, because the guy who Fox was going up against the other day ranked like 10th most in turnovers per game, right? Amin Thompson ranks 27th in the NBA in turnovers per game. Şengün actually ranks 12th, so maybe he can pick Şengün's pocket or something. And then I know a lot of people are typically interested in those Wemby blocks. All right. I'm not going to look at every player prop, but I'll glance over at the blocks, opponent blocks per game. Opponent blocks per game, right? How many times does my opponent get blocks against me? Houston ranks 15th in that category. They've actually been blocked the most out of any team in the NBA in their last 3 games. But this season, their average But if you like that current data, Houston's been blocked more than any team per game in their last 3 games. Wemby, it looks like he's averaging 3.9 blocks per game against Şengün, and they've played 7 career games against each other. Wemby's averaging 3.9 blocks in those games. The most blocks that he's had against Şengün in a game with Şengün in it is 7. He had 2 in his most recent game. 2, 3, 4, 3, 7, 5, 3. So if you guys like Wembanyama blocks tonight, you got that working with you. It's over under 2.5. I mean, how many minutes was he getting in these games that he got these blocks? I mean, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 31, 30, 33, 31. But if you think his minutes are going to be down a little bit tonight, and they have been a little bit lately, 26 in his last game, 30, 21, 27, 26, 26, 25, 21. So he's only gotten a 30-minute range in one game in his last 3, 6, 8 games. He's on a back-to-back. So this late in the day, it's tough for me to analyze all of this information because I've been, spending a lot of time gathering this information, but hopefully this helps you guys out, and analyzing it yourself. But yeah, overall, two good defensive teams here. Neither of these teams send their opponents to the free throw line a whole lot. This one is a tough game for me to call. I think I'll have to roll with the Spurs in this one. Plus the 4.5, is it? Maybe take it up to plus 6.5 if you guys feel comfortable with that. That's just the way I would lean on that one. Not necessarily a spot where I'm just like, oh yeah, gotta make that play. All right. Let's see. Blessed Up, he says, I like Fox for his unders today. I don't know about his steals. He's always good for them. Yeah, man. That was a cool trend that we found yesterday about De'Aaron Fox's steals. How it was one time in the last 3 years as he had 3 games where he had 3 consecutive games where he did not have a steal. That was a cool stat, and sure enough, man, Wemby's been on fire from 3. I think I mentioned that Houston is pretty decent at defending against the three ball as a team. They rank ninth best. But Houston to the center position, they're about average at defending against that. And here's the thing about Wembanyama. In the 7 games that he's played Shingun, he hasn't had more than 2 3-point field goals made in those games. He had 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 0. So it really just depends on what that line is for me. Over under 1.5. Seems like more times than not, right? Only 2 of those games he had 2 3-pointers, but is he a streaky player? Is he, sometimes we come across those players that can have a great game one night and then that next night they don't show up. Or we have those players that for 10 straight games they're on fire and then they're nowhere to be found for the next 10 games. I think somebody that comes to mind for me being a Nuggets fan like that was J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith seemed like when he was hot, man, he carried that on for days. But when he wasn't, he carried that on for days as well. Shout out J.R. Smith. Man, he was one of my favorite Nuggets of all time. But yeah, anyways, I guess I'll lean towards San Antonio plus the 4.5. Feel more comfortable taking it up to 6.5. Dylan Harper points. Bettors, he says. Dylan Harper points. I don't know what they are, but I like that usage rate, 23.5 there. Let's go check out what his points are listed at. Dylan Harper, 9.5 points. Yeah, with a 23.5% usage rate. Look, man, that usage rate is higher than guys that are listed at 10.5 points. Great call out there, blessed up Pete. I mean, will he do it or not is one thing, but just the fact that you gave me a player that has a higher usage rate than other players in this game that have a higher over under points is great. Keldon Johnson, 11.5 is his over under, but he has a 19.5% usage rate. What is Castle's line? 15.5. Him and Harper are close in usage rate. You add that with maybe a lack of defense for Houston. Obviously, there's a bunch of other things that we could look at, but yeah, I like that look. I think a team that a lot of people are going to be on today. Probably the most popular team today is going to be Minnesota, right? They are on a 2-game losing streak, but they're playing the Utah Jazz, who are on a 4-game losing streak. Utah's on a back-to-back. Minnesota's won 4 games in a row against Utah. Minnesota has won their last 9 out of 10 games against Utah. Both of those guys are out. Markkanen and there was somebody else that I just saw. But, Utah is better against the spread. And they're better against the spread as a home underdog than Minnesota is as a road favorite. Utah is better against the spread with rest disadvantage than Minnesota is with rest advantage. There's usually one game, and we talked about this yesterday. I think I did that live stream. We talked about this yesterday, and it seems like there's always one team, one game that messes everybody's tickets up, It was close to being Washington yesterday. Um, I think if I remember correctly, I liked Washington to cover, which they did, but um, I thought winning was maybe a little too much to ask from them. I thought Dallas, we talked about Dallas that day plus the 10.5. Dallas ends up winning by 20, or so. I think today, you know, I'm looking at this slate, man, and something's telling me that Utah somehow keeps it really close. I don't know if they win, but what other team is just that everybody's going to love that ends up losing? I mean, all of these games are pretty close spreads. I like Utah to keep it close somehow. Really because this is the only game on the slate today that a lot of people probably are not even, they just see Minnesota versus Utah. Boop, Minnesota it is. So, but I mean, for good reason, right? I mean, Utah is terrible. They allow the most points per game out of any team in the league. They allow the second most fast break points out of any team in the league. They allow the most 3-point field goals made per game out of any team in the league. Assists. They rank last in team defensive efficiency. So, I mean, Anthony Edwards on paper has a very good matchup here, with the fast break points, 3-point ball, and even a little bit of points in the paint. Him and Julius Randle, um, it's lopsided on paper, to be honest with you. But I don't always stick to the script, man. It seems like when something seems a little too good to be true, it usually is, in my experience. Like I said, I don't know if Utah wins, but I'm gonna go ahead and call it, man. I'm gonna go ahead and make a bold pick on this one. Utah beats Minnesota tonight. But if you like any player props for Minnesota in that game, I mean, statistically, you're looking pretty good. I mean, Utah, what they do good is what not what they do good. What they do better than a lot of other things is limit opponents' rebounds. So I'd make sure that if I were going with rebounds tonight for Minnesota, that I had a good reason why. Um, because that is the best category that Utah is good at preventing. And I'm going to update since we're getting close to the end here. I'm just going to update the daily or the rotowire.com deal, see if we have any injury updates. I don't see anything as of yet. I like to get these shows as close to tip off as we can. Because, for instance, and I mentioned this on the show yesterday, let's say LeBron James, and they're projected to play from what I can see here. They're projected to play. Things can change from here up until 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's 4 hours away. But let's say for some reason LeBron and Doncic were out tonight. That changes so much. So, yeah, those player injury updates mean a lot. What else can we look into here? Did you say you did like Cornette for 6 rebounds too? Um, yeah, the 6 rebounds. I didn't look at Cornette's rebounds. I looked at the points plus rebounds, 11.5, and it seemed pretty solid. Rebounds by themselves, like I said, we can go look at the advanced statistics here. Cornette's rebounds per 40 minutes is solid still. Points per 40 minutes, solid. You're expecting him to get some good run tonight. No Steven Adams defending against him. Could possibly open up another rebound or two. Houston as a team is good at preventing. They're good at a lot of things, but they are good at, uh, you know, they rank second best in rebounds allowed per game to opposing teams. But to that center position, they rank first, man. They rank best in preventing rebounds to centers. And then, Cornette versus Luke Cornette versus what's that guy's name? This is a very specific search query, but I'll try it. I don't think I'll be able to find anything. Luke Cornette versus Clint Capella. There we go. They've played 10 games against each other. I didn't look this up last time I was at that Luke Cornette prop. But, Cornette has had 6+ rebounds in his last 2 out of 3 games against Capella. 2 out of 4, 2 out of 5, 2 out of 6, 2 out of 7, 3 out of 8, 3 out of 9, 3 out of 10 career games against Capella. A lot of these games, though, Cornette here, 6 minutes, 1 minute he played, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. And I think you and I are both expecting Cornette's minutes to be up a little bit more than that tonight, So, how many minutes were we kind of projecting here for Cornette? About the 20s, about 20 minutes. So, let me see if there's any games where he had, he played 16 minutes in a game against Capella and had 7 rebounds. He had 25 minutes and got 8. 19 minutes, he had 5 in his very first game that he's ever played against Capella, which was back in 2019. So he's a little bit more experienced now. So, I forgot what else we looked at with Cornette, but I do know that the 11.5 points plus rebounds statistically looked pretty good. But, sometimes it'll look very good statistically, and it just doesn't pan out that way. And that's, what I'm kind of looking for to happen in this Minnesota-Utah Jazz game. So Minnesota is the dominant team. Everything statistically looks good with Minnesota tonight, but Utah ends up winning. Because we're all somewhat looking at the same information, All right. Look at how centers have done lately against the Rockets. That ranking seems off, Bettors. Okay. Yeah, let's go look at the Rockets. Rockets schedule here. Let's look at their most recent game, which was against New Orleans. I'm going to open up their past, let's say, 5 games. Okay. And how they've defended against centers. In their most recent game, what they played the Pelicans, and Derek Queen, 15, 4 and 5. Who would be the backup center there? Misi. He had 10 and 6. So 10 boards and 6 rebounds in that one. Steven Adams did start in that game, which Steven Adams is out tonight. And Capella didn't play. Then they played the Timberwolves. Naz Reid, 25 and 9 in that one. So big game from Naz Reid in that one. Capella did play in that game. From my understanding, Cornette's probably decent at threes, right? From the best of my memory. He's all right at threes. And I would think that it would be tough if Capella were to be guarding him tonight. I would think it'd be tough for Capella to, defend against that. But Cornette, no, he's not. He's not taking any. He's not taking any threes. Okay. I could have sworn he was taking more threes there when he was with Boston, was it? Anyways, let's keep looking at these other games that the Rockets have played against backup centers. Looks like Jalen Williams, Jaylin, had 6 and 2. I don't really necessarily consider him a center, I guess. I don't like that game to look at. The Bulls. It's not really a good game to look at either. About the Kings game here. Eubanks. Cardwell for the Kings. What did he do against the Rockets here? 9 and 11. So, rebounds allowed per game in the NBA. It takes me to teamrankings.com. Houston ranks second on that source in total rebounds allowed per game. If that source is wrong, I would think that it's probably it hasn't updated yet. But even then, I think Houston would be up there. I think if there was a source out of the two that were to be wrong, it would be the fantasypros.com defense versus position source. But yeah, definitely important when you're looking at statistics, right? Making sure that you're going to those reliable sources. I'll go to this. I'm looking at this hashtag basketball one, and it's just tough for me to interpret what they have going on here. There's a lot of things going on here with this website, and let me try to filter this by Houston rebounds to centers. Bottom 50. Opponent defensive ranking. So maybe that defense versus position source is wrong. You know, and that's what a lot of this is about, right? What information do you have access to? Is that information reliable? It's definitely a big part of all of this, right? But if you're watching the show and you're interested in statistics and defense versus position, I think finding a reliable source is definitely important. But all in all, I'm looking at a different source here, dunkest.com, and they have Houston high up there and preventing rebounds to centers. So, okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know there, Blessed Up P. Josh Giddey is out tonight, says Blessed Up P. I'll take your word for it. I do want to double check here. Um, yeah, Josh Giddey, I'm seeing, is out as well. The point guard slash shooting guard for the Chicago Bulls due to a hamstring issue. So, what do I really expect to happen now that Giddey's out? I would expect, Kobe White to lead this team in usage rates, Vucevic to take a little bit more of an offensive burden on his shoulders, maybe a little bit of Buzelis usage increase. Really, everybody can see an increase of usage, but primarily, I would think Kobe White would maybe be the guy to look for in this one. I used to target whoever James Harden was guarding. I think he's cleaned up his defense a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. But I do just want to look real quick. Kobe White versus Harden head-to-head statistics real quick. Harden does have a 7-2 career record against him. I just want to see how many points Kobe White. I just want to see if Kobe White had a big game against him. He really hasn't in the past. I don't think he's dropped 20 plus in a game against him, but I thought it was worth looking at. And the Clippers, they are really good. With Kawhi, and they're a pretty good defense. But honestly, they rank 20th in team defensive efficiency, so they're not the greatest defensive team. Let me see if there's any other injury updates for us here. Still waiting on that Paul George news. He's questionable. Steven Adams is out. We know that. Kawhi Leonard's out. We know that. Oh, Patrick Williams is also out for Chicago. And then we know Embiid's out. Okay, so let's see. They just took all props off. They just took off all props for the Spurs versus Rockets on DK. Something is happening probably on the injury report. Let's go take a look. In the meantime, I'm going to close some of these tabs here. Okay. I think it's because Eason is likely to play. He was questionable, the small forward for Houston, which can affect some, player props, whether he's in or out. But yeah, I'm seeing that he's likely to play. Other than that, I don't see any other injury updates. I've already mentioned Steven Adams is out, Vassell out, Van Fleet, he's probably out for the year. But yeah, Tari Eason is likely to play, according to RotoWire.com. So that could be the reason why your book shut that line down for a minute. If I'm right about that Utah game, that upset, I just think it looks too good to be true. You know, that could be the king of the court, right? Keontae George. I mentioned him at the start of this segment. Who that's who I kind of am. That's who I kind of think might do it tonight. I would think that he would be needed. He's the second highest Utah Jazz player in regards to usage rate. So, and then with Sensabaugh being out, even Nurkic, man, Nurkic has a tough uh, opponent going up against Gobert. So that's why I'm thinking maybe Keontae George, dude. If Utah wins this game, I think he could be king of the court tonight. But that's a long shot. But that's what I'm looking for when I'm playing king of the court. I don't want to split a mill with a million different people by taking Luka Doncic. If I were watching a show like this, I would probably even take a player that I didn't even hear for king of the court. Personally, I haven't locked it in, but I'm pretty certain I'm gonna go with Shingun. But man, I want to go with Keontae George, but I'll probably be going with Shingun. Because I think Keontae George is capable of putting up huge numbers. Anyways, um, when it comes to like who do I like the most tonight, let me scroll my notes here. When it comes to like money lines and spreads, I like the Warriors are typically one of my favorite teams. I think I was leaning against them last night. They ended up getting it done. Thinking tonight that might be my favorite play is Golden State. Let me kind of browse these other ones. I kind of I kind of like the Nuggets tonight. Bulls Clippers. Clippers hottest team in basketball right now. Rockets Spurs. kind of like Phoenix. I don't really see anything that I absolutely love today, but I like all of these about the same here. Phoenix -1.5, San Antonio +4.5. I said San Antonio plus the 4.5. What else? Chicago -2.5. Utah +13.5. Nuggets +2.5. Warriors -3.5. And then Heat and Kings. Miami -4.5. Those would be my picks today. Yeah. Phoenix -1.5. Spurs +4.5. Bulls -2.5. Jazz +13.5. Nuggets +2.5. Warriors -3.5. Heat -4.5. I think like Tuesdays are like my best days too. I'm not saying tail or anything, but we'll see what happens. This is my second NBA show that I've done in the past, well, since Halloween. So I'm just getting back into the groove of things here. But let me just go over some other general things that I want to talk about, and then we'll wrap it up here. Devin Booker, I think he has a very good fast break points advantage tonight against Philadelphia. I already mentioned if you like anybody for Phoenix or Philadelphia to get rebounds or assists, Philadelphia is below average at allowing that. Also, it looks like Mark Williams will play tonight for the Phoenix Suns, okay? And I'm just seeing that Paul George looks like he's going to be out. They haven't updated with wording yet, but they got him out on rotowire.com. They just haven't updated that reasoning. Seeing Eason is available to play tonight. He's projected to be the starting small forward there. What else are we looking at here? Zubac, I think, has the center for the Clippers. Zubac, I think I mentioned him yesterday. He did well. Got to mention him again today. Chicago ranks 25th in points in the paint allowed per game. Zubac ranks 9th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. So I think he's got a good advantage there tonight. Kobe White and Dosunmu, the guards for the Chicago Bulls. I give them a good fast break points advantage. Typically, there will be more points in the paint scored than fast break points, but I like to look at both. And Kobe White and Dosunmu, if you guys like them for player props tonight, I do give them a fast breaks advantage. They're good at fast break points. Clippers are below average at defending against fast break points. If you guys like Harden for 3-pointers tonight, Chicago ranks 20th in 3-pointers allowed to opposing teams. I can filter that by the exact position just by this one source that I'm looking at, which is fantasypros.com. Maybe you don't like this source. Feel free to go use a different one. But this one is saying that, Chicago is about average at defending against the point guard position 3-pointers. But, if you do like Harden's threes tonight for other reasons, obviously I can't look at every player prop as much as I want to. But, you got that going for you. If you guys like anybody for the Clippers for assists, Chicago is bad at preventing teams from allowing assists. We've already talked about that Houston game a lot. Anthony Edwards, on paper, yeah, he's got a big fast break points per game advantage here tonight. It's a big 3-point advantage. No other team allows more 3-point field goals to opposing teams than Utah. Anthony Edwards is the projected shooting guard for the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. And, according to fantasypros.com, the Utah Jazz allow the most 3-point field goals per game to not just opposing teams, but to opposing shooting guards. They're specifically vulnerable at that defending against that position. So Anthony Edwards, on paper has a very advantageous matchup here. Even if you like DiVincenzo, he ranks 13th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game, and then Naz Reid, 39th. He ranks in 3-point field goals made per game. If you like anybody from Minnesota assisting, Utah allows the most assists per game to opposing teams. Lakers, Nuggets, I do give Ayton, LeBron, Doncic, Austin Reeves is out. But, Ayton, LeBron, and Doncic points in the paint advantage here today. And I also want to just filter this by the last points in the paint allowed per game. I want to see what the Nuggets have been giving up in their last 3 games. They've allowed the most points in the paint, and I wanted to look at that specifically because Jokic is out. Valanciunas is out. So I see that the Nuggets are ranked 18th this season in points in the paint allowed per game, but their last 3 games, they've allowed the most points in the paint per game. So that's going to be, that's going to be tough to defend against for the Nuggets tonight. With Ayton, LeBron, and Doncic all ranking in the top 30 in the NBA in points in the paint per game. Tim Hardaway Jr., if you like him for any reason tonight, I do give him a fast breaks points advantage, a 3-point advantage, just based on the Lakers team defense. I didn't look at the specific position, but and I think he's been pretty hot lately, if I'm not mistaken. THJ has been 6 points in his last game. Then it was 30, 12, 18, 25, 10, 14, 26. So he seems like one of the more one of the better bench players that the Nuggets have. That's healthy, at least. This team's banged up. And even maybe a little bit of Jamal Murray here. Lakers, they look slightly below average in 3-point field goals allowed to point guards. And they rank 19th as a team in 3-point field goals allowed per game. If you like any assists in that game, I can get behind that. Rebounds, I think, may be a little bit tough, just because both of these teams are good at preventing other teams from getting rebounds. But I got to look at the last 3 games for the Nuggets. They've allowed the second amount of rebounds to opposing teams, actually, so per game. So, with Jokic and Valanciunas being out, man, that interior seems vulnerable for the Nuggets. So that's going to, probably create more opportunity for guys getting rebounds and a few easier baskets for the Lakers. I still stand behind my Nuggets pick here. I don't like it. I may be biased on that too because I am a Nuggets fan. I just think a lot of people are going to look at this game and think, oh, Jokic is out. that Christian Brown is out, Valanciunas. They have all of these players out. Lakers have LeBron and everybody's pretty much healthy. Not no Austin Reeves, but they got LeBron and Doncic. And Nuggets win by 20. But on paper, it's not looking great for the Nuggets, especially that interior. And then Toronto and Golden State Warriors. Quickly, I would say has a fast break advantage in that one. With there was a big injury in that one, not just Jimmy Butler, but RJ Barrett being out in that one. He's been out for a few games. But that I'm sure Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and quickly can see some increase in usage. But I think who probably benefits the most from that today is going to be the quickly fast break points. And, Scotty Barnes is good at fast breaks as well. Points in the paint, Golden State is about average at defending against that. Scotty Barnes is good at scoring points in the paint. Quickly three-pointers could be a little concerning tonight. He's a pretty good three-point shooter, but Golden State is good at defending against the three as a team. And to that point guard position, they're actually a little bit below average, which makes me maybe like quickly a little bit more on that one. I would do a little bit more research. You guys have time to do that. It's a little bit of ways away before tip off. And then did I see anything with rebounds or assists with that game? No. And then today is Tyler Harrow's birthday. I know he's not playing tonight for Miami, but do what you want with that information. Sacramento is the second worst team against the spread in the NBA. But Sacramento does have a better against the spread record with a rest advantage than Miami does with a rest disadvantage. I think if you like Jaquez tonight, if you like Jaquez tonight for anything, he could get some points in the paint. Sacramento allows the second most points in the paint to opposing players, to opposing teams. Jaquez ranks 23rd in the NBA in points in the paint per game. I'd also maybe go look at that Sacramento defense, bench defense. Bench points allowed in the NBA. Teams that allow the most bench points this season. Let's see if Sacramento is maybe on this list here. I'm not seeing them. 24th. They've played 43 games. There are some teams that have played 44, 45 that are ahead of them here. This is not by a per game basis. They just accumulate all these. It looks like Sacramento's bench defense is actually kind of decent. You may want to double check that if you're interested in playing somebody like Jaquez. But, just from what I see here, points in the paint allowed per game. Sacramento allows the second most. Jaquez ranks 23rd best in the NBA. And then Sabonis, Miami, they from my understanding, Sabonis should play, if I'm not mistaken. They don't necessarily have him in the starting lineup right now. It looks like they're just easing him back into things. So, but yeah, I do give, Sabonis a points in the paint advantage when he's on the floor. Just based on this little information that I'm looking at, Miami ranks 23rd in points in the paint allowed per game. Both of these teams are pretty good at preventing fast break points. Levine three-pointers, maybe. Miami, they rank 22nd in three-point field goals allowed per game. Levine ranks 26th best in the NBA in three-point field goals made per game. And then if we filter this by the shooting guard position and see how many three-pointers Miami allows to the shooting guard position. They are below average in that category. So if you like Levine threes, you got that working for you. I feel like there was a little stat that I came across that um, I did come across one, but it doesn't really, it's not, applicable in this game tonight because Kawhi Leonard's not playing. But let's say Kawhi was playing. He had a 6-0 career record against Kobe White and a 22-3 career record against Vucevic. So I think the Clippers probably be a popular team tonight, being on a 6-game win streak. I typically like to go against the grain, typically. I'm just trying to see if I had anything else for you guys that I had in my notes here. If you guys have any like last second player prop questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'm probably about to get out of here. We can look at statistics all we want, but what am I naturally feeling? I feel like whenever statistics and however you're naturally feeling align with each other, I feel like that's when I probably make my best decisions. Naturally looking away from any statistics, looking away from all of the statistics, just players that I think that'll do good tonight. Maxi for Philadelphia with Embiid and George being out. Um, Kobe White for Chicago, James Harden and or Zubac with Kawhi Leonard being out again. Clippers are on a back-to-back though, right? Yeah, sometimes, I think both of them probably had good games yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe everybody's going to be high on them today and they just kind of fall flat. It is a possibility. Yeah, it's Harden dropped 36 yesterday. It's going to be tough to replicate that, but that's just kind of what I'm naturally feeling here. What else? Keontae George, man. Keontae George and Nurkic, I think, have good games tonight. Just that's how I'm feeling. Statistically, it doesn't make sense though. I want to pick Keontae George for the king of the court. I'll probably go Shingun. Um, I naturally feel like the Lakers are going to beat the Nuggets, so give me the Nuggets in that one to cover. Doesn't it feel like that with the Lakers? It does with me. Like games that I think the Lakers are going to win, they end up getting, they end up losing by 20. And then games that you expect them to lose, they end up getting the job done. But yeah, I don't know. In that one, probably Aaron Gordon. I'm feeling like it might have a good night tonight. And then, Steph Curry with Jimmy Butler being out. I think a lot of people are going to be looking for him to do good. I was kind of looking at Moody a little bit. A little bit. Toronto ranks 12th in three-pointers allowed per game to opposing teams. Moody is a decent three-point shooter. I think the Warriors just, man, that hurts a lot, that Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler injury. And then Miami versus Sacramento. I don't know if I like Westbrook to do good tonight, but I just like Westbrook in general. So my favorite play tonight with the money lines and spreads and all that. Like I said, I listed off all the games. I don't feel great about anything today, but I feel all right about all these. But if I had to pick one that I like, I couldn't go with Utah, right? Even though I project them to win, I'm not going to say that Utah covering is my favorite play today. But probably the Spurs plus the 4.5 would feel more comfortable up at 6.5. What do you guys like tonight? Go with your intuition on King of the Court, he says. Then it's got to be King of the Court, Dylan Brooks. That'd be cool. I'm gonna go with my intuition. I don't even know what my intuition is anymore. I want to either go with Shingun or Keontae George. Shingun statistically makes the most sense for me, but dude, it'll be fun having Keontae George and having him do something tonight. But like I said, man, if I were watching this show, guys, I wouldn't even pick any of those players. I mean, really, what I would do is pick somebody who nobody is talking about, somebody who's questionable, who people do not expect to play. In fact, somebody that people expect to miss. Um, you know, maybe Jamal Murray or Aaron Gordon. These guys are probable to play. People might see that and not want to have anything to do with them. That's what happens. I can't tell you how many times I look at a player who's questionable or is not likely to play, who ends up playing and does great. So if you're cool with splitting with a bunch of people, I mean, yeah, Doncic, Harden are guys to look at for King of the Court. But I mean, if you're looking for yeah, a nice payoff, if you do hit, going with the sleepers is the way to go there. But all right, thanks again, guys, for joining today. Hope you guys had fun. I know I did. I'd like to thank our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. Before I get out of here, I just want to see what's going on tomorrow in the NBA. Like I said, now that we're winding down the NFL season, I'll be doing some more NBA shows. If I'm available tomorrow or Thursday, that's when I plan on doing the next NBA show. Well, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll make an announcement. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. If you could hit that subscribe button too, that would be great. If not, all good. I still appreciate you guys for joining today. Thanks for all those questions and comments, and good luck to all of you. Once again, thank you for joining. Take care. All right, blessed up, P. Oh, wait, before I get out, before I end the stream, let me make sure there's no other player injury updates, okay? That's something that I'm trying to get better at, is right before I log out, making sure that we don't have anything else. I would say the biggest injury updates to keep up to date with for tonight, guys, is going to be is going to be, well, anybody can just end up not playing, right? It's rare. Usually by this time, but I would just, double check to make sure Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon are playing. They are probable, so they're likely to play. And then for the Warriors, we got Will Richard and Draymond Green, who are questionable 50-50. It's in the air whether or not they're playing tonight. But other than that, everything else seems pretty clear. All right. Good luck. I'll see you guys soon.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.